Okay, so I spent about 48 hours locked in the shop. And I got some cool stuff made. So what we got is we finally got our 7-inch screen for our SKR board, and we needed a mounting bracket, some way to mount it. So this is one of the things that we've made, and not the best. So this will mount up underneath the top rail. I'll show you that in a second. I'll keep it at a little bit of an angle. I do have a little bit more of adjustments to make, a few minor problems. I went ahead and put a 0.6 nozzle in and printed this with 0.6. It took about 12 hours. So, and I just printed it with some cheap filament. I was pretty sure it wasn't going to be right the first try, and if it was, what I tend to do is I'll spray it with automotive primer and then sand it and then put a coat of paint on it. It'll look beautiful. This 0.6 nozzle, man, this came out pretty good. I printed it fast too. This is good filament. This is that 3D Salutec that everybody says they don't like because it gets brittle supposedly before you print it on the reel. Now I dropped this, so this busted off. I dropped it from about 5 feet. So but yeah, this is good. We're gonna have to slightly move this hole over, slightly move this one down, and then these ended up being on the wrong side of the board, but that should work. Now some of the other things I've worked on. Now there's a companion bracket for this too, right here. So this basically goes onto it, and this will go onto the side rail. And there's a possibility of reversing this right here and putting one on the other side. I'll show you how this mounts on the machine in a second. But you see this bracket will just have T-nuts, and it'll screw onto this hole. And that just, I separated this to make it easier to print. You weren't going to be able to print this on the 5 unless I made this a separate piece. But now it will fit on the 5. So that's for the monitor housing, and like I said, it almost fits perfect. It will fit in here. The screw holes for the mount are right, and we're centered on our hole for the screen. We just don't have these holes right, so we're gonna go ahead and straighten that out. Probably go ahead and do our final print on that. We'll just print it in the black. The one thing about printing in the black PLA Plus is it probably wouldn't have done this if it fell, but this filament is like $5 a roll cheaper, so you know, we cut our expenses by 25% by printing this out of white. Alright, blah blah blah. So the other thing we're working on is how do we mount the board. And so what we have is basically a bracket that'll go over 2 holes that are in the board right here, 2 posts. This will pop over the posts, and then you can put the screws in to hold it to the case, and then your board will fit right here, screw on right here. Now this hole has a couple posts coming up, but this hole right here was just made to use less filament. And then here is that part right here, and here's our board. We're ready to go on. So that is for the 5 with the SKR. I've also been working on the Plus. I'd like to put a side tray on the Plus, but the cables are not long enough. So what this required is actually making a bigger control box, which will be 2 halves. So this is half of the control box. So this is your power switch. These are your holes for your USB and for your USB and your micro SD card. And then what we did is we just put the fan right here. So on the bottom, show you some of this crap here. On the bottom, the 2020 comes from like this corner almost up to where this hole is. So this is the bottom, and this is where the fan will bring in the air. You have a little bit of static. That's not the best return size, and then your fan will just slide right into here. And we should be able to make it tight. This right here is for a 5-volt power supply, the one that we use on most of our projects. We'll screw right here. It's your MOSFET right here. This is the hole for your cable for your screen to come out. This is the hole for the left Z motor. This is the hole for the right Z motor. Now, this is not right. This is not complete. I need to take it apart and put the other 2 holes for the power supply. So the power supply will sit in here and help hold this together. Also, this sits over the bracket for the Z motor, and then the screws will come down through the top here and help sandwich all this together and hold it together also. So that's, like I said, that's half of it. Your other half is right here. So your other half includes a spot for a Raspberry Pi 4 right here, and this is upside down. So actually this sits, if you're looking at the right side of your printer, that's how this sits right here. Couple of air vents. This is where your power plug is, your Raspberry. Here's the 2 screws for your power supply, a couple of vents on the back, down low, and then our cover will have some holes in the front of it. And I believe I want to try to keep holes off the top the best I can in case you spill something on it or something. Can't really do that here. We're limited to the orientation of the Raspberry. So this is actually pretty exciting. So I actually like this. I debated on whether or not I wanted to actually do this, but I think this is going to be very cool. And our wires will come out right about here and go up to the top. So this mounts on the side at the bottom. So you'll have a couple screws here, probably. Well, you have the one right here that holds it, so you probably have another sliding T-nut here, and then you'll end up having a sliding T-nut, probably not a sliding T-nut, a regular T-nut right here. So you go into the side here. So that's the 2 major projects I'm working on. That was a lot of work. It doesn't look like much, but that was an enormous amount of work. So basically I have a whole bunch of machines taken apart, 2 of them. I have the Plus taken apart, which is the one we just converted to dual extrusion, and then I have the new 5 project. So let me pause this and we'll go over here to the 5 and take a look at some of this stuff on the machine. So here is the board right here, and here are the holes, and this pops on right here. But since it does stick out a little bit on the top right here, you need to have this hole cut on the top, and I'm going to show you that here in a second. So this is where the SD card and USB are going to be, and what we're going to do is we're going to nip out about 3 of these ribs, and then on this motor relocation bracket we're going to have a little trim piece that comes out, that's part of it, that comes over the holes and has a spot for the SD card and USB. Then you should be able to use a 90-degree USB and come out and go back. Now I'm going to get a USB 90 and check the fit. We do have the ability to drop this power box probably as much as 6 millimeters if we wanted to, so we should have plenty of room. We will have plenty of room for our 90. So that'll be that, and that trim piece will make this nice and beautiful. Okay, so here's pretty much where the screen will mount right here. It'll be centered. Like I said, there's a block here that slides in that still allows you, you'll have about a 10 millimeter strip here, and then you'll have a little space here if you need to get to these slots here for whatever. And then, like I said, you probably can reverse this bracket right here if you want one on the other side. And it's a bit cumbersome on the front. Should be pretty solid. It's a pretty heavy screen, but I feel like once that's screwed, you could still get, I think it's going to be pretty solid. So you see, you got your 3 T-nuts here, your side bracket will connect, and then you'll have some nuts that screw it onto here. Okay, so that's the screen. So that's what I've been working on. I made awesome progress, I think, in the last couple of days. Although I still need to test print the plus and figure out anything I might have overlooked. I'm going to do the final print on the screen holder for this and the side bracket, and we can bolt this up. And I'll start working on the BIOS. I mean the firmware. Always bad habit of calling it BIOS. The firmware. So what are we gonna do? What am I gonna do with this machine? So I have the turbo board for it, the 1.4. That gives us the ability to do the dual extrusion. I have the cheap hot end that I fixed, and I think it's good enough to go into service. So why not make this dual extrusion? But instead, I also have a pancake motor here. So let's take some of the stuff I have here, and I have at least 4 genuine brand new high wind MGM9 carriages that can go on. So let's make this linear. Let's make it dual extrusion, but let's make it dual extrusion with one of the extruders direct drive and the other one standard. And the one that's direct drive, let's put a 3-to-1 reduction gear on it, extruder, and let's put the pancake motor on it. So basically right up here at an angle a little bit will be your 3-to-1, because you remember you come off at an angle. So we'll make a custom bracket. We'll take our bracket that we have already made, and we will alter it to hold our motor and our extruder in a different spot, and then we'll just have the other one, you know, coming up normal. So the other thing I've been thinking about working on is that I have metal cabinets, and I like everything coming from the top. So I've been thinking about getting some extension cables, and I have some extension cables, and moving the extruders to a block on a magnet that also attaches to the cabinet, so my filament's above it and my extruder's on the cabinet magnetic to it, and then it runs directly to here. So I want to work on that. That's just probably, you know, you pretty much have to have metal cabinets to run that. That's pretty much it. Alright guys, have a good week.